Hi.
Should we start then? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum. I welcome all participants to this online training course on intellectual property for scientists. This training course is jointly organized by ComStech, International Center for Chemical and Biological Sciences, and Sindh Innovation Research and Education Network under the leadership of Coordinator General ComStech and Director ICCBS, Professor Dr. Muhammad Iqbal. Over 250 participants have registration for this training course, and from this training course, all participants will get an opportunity to learn about the various aspects of intellectual property, protection, management, and the product development from IP that can find a place in global market. So this course will be delivered by one of the leading scientists and internationally known IP expert, Professor Dr. Sarfaraz Niazi. Now I would request Coordinator General Comstech and Director ICCBS, Professor Dr. Muhammad Iqbal, to introduce you with our distinguished speaker.
Dear Professor Dr. Sarfaraz Niazi, very valued guest, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, good afternoon and good evening because we are in different time frame. In fact, Dr. Niazi is in the morning time in USA, and he has taken the trouble of waking up very early. I'm sure he's one of those people who start his day very early, but especially for this very important workshop, he is with us today. And it's a very special pleasure because I know Professor Niazi since last 2.5 decades, even longer than that, about 3 decades. He's a very distinguished pharmaceutical scientist, and his experience span over a whole range of different topics. Very briefly, whatever he has done with excellence and style, and he has achieved a lot of milestone in different fields of pharmaceutical sciences on different aspects of it. His contributions toward Pakistan is very well known because he is one of the pioneer of pharmaceutical research in Pakistan, and then his expertise in the field of IPR has helped the country in developing laws and rules and institutional infrastructure. Pakistan has increased its number of patents from literally nothing to a very substantial number of international patents, largely through the efforts of Professor Sarfaraz Niazi. Now, he is based in USA, and he is one of the most distinguished Pakistanis living abroad, at the same time benefiting not only Pakistan, but also the other countries, both OIC world and the other countries of the world. So Niazi is perhaps one of those distinguished individuals who owns largest number of US patents. If I tell you that he is the author of over 200 US patents, this is certainly a world record. In the field of clinical applications, technology, and bioprocessing. He authored over 100 research papers and over 60 major technology books. And his books are classics, because some of his books are actually read as reference books in leading institutions of the world. He has delivered literally hundreds of lectures and workshops all over the world, including keynote lectures and plenary lectures in the field of pharmaceutical and biosimilar sciences. He is the advisor of many regulatory agencies, including US FDA, Federal Drug Regulatory Authority in USA. He serves on the editorial board of several journals, Professor Niazi is a fellow of Royal Society, Pakistan Academy of Medical Sciences, American Society of Clinical Biochemistry, and since 2013, he received one of the highest civilian awards, the Star of Distinction Sitare Imtiaz in Pakistan from the President of Pakistan, which is again a unique distinction for a person of his stature who has received so much recognition. He has hosted radio shows uh, on Voice of America for US State Department every week. He's currently hosting it, and since last 7 years, with the audience into billions. Professor Niazi has been helping the Higher Education Commission developing US intellectual property right for the Pakistani scientists for more than 15 years. Uh, we also have the honor of inviting Professor Niazi to be one of our faculty members. He is an adjunct faculty in International Center for Chemical and Biological Sciences, and also a premier research institution, academic institution of Pakistan, National University of Science and Technology. He's also a faculty in University of Illinois, University of Houston, USA, and he is a very distinguished patent lawyer with a very good track record. So I would say that his success rate it makes him one of the best in the field. Apart from that, his inherent motivation to help young people and to help developing countries is just absolutely phenomenal. And I'm so absolutely pleased to introduce Professor Dr. Niazi for today's very important presentation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Um, Thank you very much for this introduction. I'm totally pleased and honored to have this opportunity to speak to so many. I think you said it very right, okay? It's my desire to help younger generation because you are the ones who will carry the ball in the future. So my talk today relates to intellectual property. Now, I think there was already given a long uh, introduction, so I won't spend any time on me. I think I have to spend time on you. But today's training program for scientists has, I have a very specific scope in mind. As many times as I've gone around the world and talked about this topic, most scientists are often confused. Why do I have to know about intellectual property, which is not just patents, okay? There are many things. I'm a scientist. So my teaching has been, that scientists are the one that make the difference in how an economy progresses, how a society develops. So there are a lot of obligations. So I will talk about how do you connect the innovation and the wealth of the country? How do you convert innovation into value? And a topic as simple as how to search. Today, I think no scientist can move forward with any project unless he or she has the ability to do a very detailed search of what is available. Also, I will talk about the kinds of research should be conducted. The purpose of research is to add value, and any research that does not lead to a value, I think it's a waste of resource, both manpower resource and financial resources. We will then talk about how other countries have succeeded very well. We will have a discussion on how to write a research protocol, which will end up in getting you an IP. But to get an IP, you have to have some understanding of what are the laws around the world. Yes, you are a scientist, you're not involved in the legal part of it, but without knowing the basics, it will be difficult for you to design your research that can add substantial value. So I will talk about that. And then, and the last, I will also make my recommendation how to get your IP or intellectual property recognized globally, where to file and how to file. So I'm moving forward, okay, I think the course, these are the parts of the course that I have divided into understanding IP and patents and structure, and including a discussion of how to commercialize your products or your inventions as we go along. And I will spend quite a bit of time, which I think is important, to teach you how to do the search. You cannot, this is not an IT business to do the search, okay? This is a scientific search. Just like when you go to a library, you read journals, that era is gone, okay? Now you have to be sitting in your office and examining billions of pages of data available to you, and how not to get lost in the search. So I think that will be, in my opinion, a very valuable discussion today. Before we move forward, okay, I just want to lay out some suggestions. I'm sure you know all of your mics are muted, which is, I think, a good idea for now. If you want to raise hand and leave a question in writing, I will look at the question, and if it pertains to something that needs to be clarified right away, I will provide an answer without, just read out your question and provide an answer to clarify. We also have a break section for question and answers at the end, but also in the middle of the discussion, okay, I'll give you 5-10 minutes for bio break or whatever you want to do, do a quick run around just to relax your legs, okay? So I want you to relax, sit down. I'm giving you a lifetime of teaching in 2 hours, okay, which I don't know how easy it is, okay? I've never done this kind of teaching online, and I'm totally excited to go through this another experiment, okay, today with you. I think I've been totally introduced. The only thing I wanted to add is that I think somebody needs to get the mic muted. Yeah, okay. The only thing I wanted to add here is that there's a globalization that has happened in the past 20, 30 years, okay? So there's a lot of awareness around the world about the science and about the intellectual property. And I think I'm very pleased that I was able to, there are some of the books. In fact, one of the book I wrote is on how to get the patents online, okay? By the way, my most famous book is none of those technology books, okay? It's about Mirza Ghalib, okay? I think he was a great scientist, okay? He said a verse, okay, but I read in Urdu, then I'll give English translation also. He said, "Hai kawakib kuch, nazar aate hain kuch, dete hain dhoka ye bazi gar khula." The stars are something else other than what they appear. They deceive you right out openly. This is the theory of what Einstein gave 100 years later, okay? You know, we are looking at the stars on this side here. By the way, those stars may well be on this side because gravity changes the course of light. So this was one of the many ideas which I was able to enforce into my translations. So I'm very pleased to share all of my books. Many of my books are available online, including the Ghalib book. So if you have some interest in poetry, that will be a good thing to do. So let's start with the first topic, understanding intellectual property. So I'm always very curious as a writer, okay? What is the meaning of every word? So in science, we have a special definition of everything, yes. But in the law part of it, it is so important. It is so important where not only just the words, but also how the punctuation is written makes a big difference. I'll give you one example just for your knowledge. Okay, there is a law in US on biosimilars or biological drugs that come off patent. And the law says that the developer of the generic biologic, which you call biosimilars, shall share its entire regulatory filing with the company that had the original product in the first place. Okay. So Sandoz company, when they filed the first product, okay, they say, I'm not going to share it. All right. So what happened? Well, there was a lawsuit filed against them by Amgen company, who had made the original product. And this is one of the few cases that went all the way to the Supreme Court. Okay. And Supreme Court said in a unanimous opinion is that, no, they don't have to share because the word is shall, not will. And I think I'm just giving you this example, okay, how much of a difference it makes. Okay, shall means, I think you should do it. It's not a requirement. Okay. And therefore, the Sandoz won that part of the case. So let me go through some of the philosophic aspect here, which I enjoy talking about all the time. What is creativity? I think if there's one thing you will take home today is a proper meaning of the words that we use in our everyday language, okay? So creativity is a phenomenon where something new, and so there's a word called and, somehow valuable is formed. So let's say if I create a new pen, which is twisted, well, it's not creativity unless I can show what is the value of it. So creativity is something new and also valuable. Now, it doesn't have to be a physical object. Okay? It can be an intangible object, and I will talk about that when I will talk about Professor Abdul Salam, okay, what intangible objects mean. And the person or persons who engage in creativity are all called creative people. Okay. Now, keep in mind, okay, as I said, something new and valuable. There's no discussion of being intelligent or intellectual, nothing at all. Okay. Anybody can be creative. Okay. Now, keep in mind that all of these things have an impact on how you progress in your life and research. Okay. So I ask all the young people, okay, so what have you done recently that was creative? Have you thought about doing things differently? So definition of creativity is very important for us to understand. Then comes the most misunderstood word, which is called intellect. Okay. Now, what is intellect? The faculty, which is the minding of reasoning and understanding objectively, not subjectively. Let me tell you the difference between the two, especially about abstract or academic matters. That's where you come, okay? Reasoning and understanding objectively. Objectively means that you have to have a proof, a reason, a basis for your reasoning. You can take any problem, any issue, and that's what debaters do very well, okay? We sit down and we reason each other out, but it has to be done objectively, okay? It's not because I believe in it, therefore it is, okay? No, everything must be proven. And this is where the science comes in the biggest manner. One who practices intellect is called intellectual. So let me give you some choices, okay? Would you call Einstein an intellectual? Absolutely, because he was able to reason out things objectively. He's an intellectual. Then comes the word intelligence. Okay. Now, there are agencies called Central Intelligence Agency. We don't call them Central Intellectual Agency. They're not, okay? it is the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. So intelligence has very little to do with intellect. It is how do you acquire and make something out of it. It's more on the productive side of it. So an intelligent man is able to use the knowledge and skills and apply to create something useful. So don't get, so if you're telling somebody you're intelligent or intellectual, there's a big difference. One is, so the intelligent person is more on a doer side and intellectual is more on a thinker side. And then I have designed another set of definitions because we're living in an era of Google.com, okay, that totally transformed human society. What is information? Information is simply the facts about something. Now, if you go to Google.com and write anything, you name it, you write anything, what is the temperature today, or what is the, who won World War VI, or so on and so forth, you will get millions of answers, millions. So information has become so abundant. In fact, it is so difficult now to make something out of information. Now, this is the topic I will deal with towards the end of the talk. I'm keeping the best for the end so you won't run away. Is how do you do the search to make it meaningful? So information is, for example, the temperature right now is 12 degrees centigrade outside, which is probably right. That's information. Now, information leads to what you call knowledge, okay? So knowledge is the act, information, and skills acquired through experience or education. Okay. How do you put these things together? Either theoretically or through thinking into a model. So if I give you a lot of data, you can analyze the data and conclude certain behavior. This is what Dr. Iqbal Chaudhry does all day long, okay? You know, you collect so much information in the lab, and then when you write a paper, there comes a point where you talk about discussion. So you bring the data, which is information, and then your discussion is you understand how those things connect. That's called knowledge. So somebody who can take the information and make sense out of it is called a knowledgeable man, or he has the knowledge. And I've added two more things to it. I took the liberty of doing it. So it's called wisdom. Now, wisdom comes after knowledge. Wisdom is the quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment. The quality of being wise. So wisdom will be, if you analyze the data that a drug is not suitable, you're wise not to take it. Okay. So a wise man, somebody who uses the knowledge to make good judgment, to conclude certain elements of life, experiment, everything. And then finally, there is a enlightenment, which I have added to it. Okay, this, I borrowed it from the Buddhist tradition and call him Guru. Okay, so who's the person who's enlightened? Okay, you know, I have lived so long in my life. I have met some of the most famous people, most intelligent and intellectual people. And I came to one conclusion, is that being enlightened is very different from being either an intellectual, intelligent, or well-informed. It is the last stage, is that when you accept the facts, you don't argue, you don't engage yourself in things which are totally useless. Imagine how much time of our life we spend in arguing on things that are totally useless. How many times, you know, we engage in a conversation which leads us to nowhere, and how many times we spend energy and efforts in doing things which should not be done in the first place. And that is called enlightenment. I didn't want to make it a lecture in philosophy, but I have done many of those. And I always enjoy talking to especially the younger scientists who are now rising, to always keep in mind that someday I'd like you to be a guru and do things that are worth doing, not otherwise. Then there comes the word property, because we are talking about intellectual property. What's a property? If you have a piece of land, that's a property. So property is something that has a legal description. So if you have a house or a land or something, you can tell, okay, this is where it's located. These are the dimensions, and something that can be sold or transferred legally. So now you go back to when I said, what is intellectual property? Okay. So especially it's a reasoning. It is something that can be transferred or sold. And again, that leads all the way to creativity and intellect, and then intelligence that will allow you to create a property. And that is the subject of today's talk. How do we go about doing it? So let me, before coming to this talk, I gave a lot of thought, okay, how can I put in a nutshell what is the meaning of value? And I will give you, and I will share with you some very interesting data, how other countries and other nations have done it, okay? So the value is, first of all, you have to have intellect, okay, to do that, which will lead to IP, but it all comes down from an entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is very simply an ability to take the risk to develop things of use. And I will share with you how entrepreneurship, how it has transformed human society over thousands and thousands of years. Okay, so these are all interconnected. The value comes from IP, the IP comes from intellect, and intellect requires some level of entrepreneurship, which I think is missing very widely in at least the countries that we are talking about today, and how do we go about reintroducing them. So let's get to the big business. This was an article published several years ago in New York Times, big story. And it was a very interesting article. By the way, every Tuesday they have a science section, which is Science Time, which is my favorite day. They question, okay, that what went wrong? Islam and Muslim scientists even today are recognized as having made the most significant contributions. It was an era where nobody could even compare. The Europe was nowhere close. There were absolutely no knowledge base. Look at the list. I don't want to go into the list, okay, but there's a long, long list. At first I thought maybe I put those 100 names, but I thought you can find it out yourself. But something went wrong. The Muslim scientists and Islamic countries were at the peak of science. I'm not talking about anything else. Peak of scientific philosophy, science, medicine, you name the discipline. And it was the Muslim scientists who were leading it. So what happened then? Here's what happened, okay. So what happened was, in the West, okay, the science was able to pay for itself in new technology. What happened was that in the West, they did not have the science. So they decided to take the science. In fact, I would not be wrong if I were to say that almost all the science that provided the seeding of the Western culture and society came from Muslim countries. But what they did was, they didn't have the science, But they say, you know, how can I convert the science into technology? Now, in the Muslim countries, we were very good in creating science at that time. But then it fell into the hands of, you know, sultans and caliphs. I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. The Ottomans took over the Arabic land in century. They were builders, okay, not thinkers, okay, at that time. So somehow we lost the link between the science and technology, and that's one of the topic of our discussion today. What if we had also brought that link? I think Muslim countries would have been on the top of this globe in every respect. I think I like the sentence at the bottom. It says, others argue that it seems to decline only when viewed through Western secular eyes. And they say, you know what, it is possible to live without industrial revolution. Who needs it? If you have enough camels and food. So what happened was that somehow the connection between science and technology was lost because of the, I think I was able to conclude, at least in my mind, why it happened. Okay, I think we withered away. We did not allow enough freedom, and we preferred to be caliphs and sultans rather than leaders of a society. And I think that's exactly what happened for the Muslim decline. So these data that I've collected is very important. So please bear with me. I think it will enlighten you. My purpose is entirely to enlighten you today. In other words, make you accept things. I'm not, okay, tell you what, let me be the guru today, okay? Let me teach you something, okay, that is irrefutable. So Nobel Prizes are not political prizes. In my opinion, in 110 years history of Nobel, I think overall I would agree with every prize given out. The few of them I would not have, but never mind. So here's the list of all the countries that have a Nobel Prize. Of course, the largest number are in US, 385, and then go down. In the bottom, you see countries that have one Nobel Prize and two, and so on and so forth. But here's the part that I wanted to talk about today, okay, is that then because I was talking about the Muslim civilization, I thought, hey, listen, let me cut it down and see how does it translate into the religious beliefs. Very difficult topic, very controversial. So I ask for your forgiveness if I say something wrong. So there are 900 Nobel laureates, 600 of them are Christians. Now, then I look at what is the population of Christians in the world. It is about 2.3 billion. And then comes the most significant data, and 190 Nobels have gone to Jewish people. And you know what is the world population of Jews? Only 15 million, which is probably a small little neighborhood in Karachi. And they have 190, close to 200 Nobel Prizes. Now comes the Muslim countries. There are a total of 12 Nobel laureates in Muslim country. But before I go, the Muslim population is 1.3 billion. I think you can calculate, okay, how efficient Muslims are in getting a Nobel. But even those Nobel Prizes, okay, what was most alarming to me was that 7 of them are peace prizes. So we're pretty good in movements. 2 are in literature. And only 3 prizes are given in sciences, which includes physics, chemistry, medical sciences, those sciences. Now, you will also see that in a parenthesis, I write down 3 and 2. Pakistan had one Nobel Prize, that is Dr. Abdul Salam. who was a physicist, and his arena was theoretical physics. In 1974, he went back to Pakistan and said, I want to set up a very huge education about the physics and institutions. Now, when he got the Nobel Prize, he was very happy to go back to Pakistan. But Pakistan declared him to be non-Muslim by constitution. So he got disgruntled and left the country. By the way, he's buried in Pakistan. He went back, okay. So what I'm saying is that one of the reasons why you see that science does not necessarily have to be affected by your religious beliefs or your other beliefs, okay. I think I can tell you this today, okay. If Abdul Salam had stayed in Pakistan, Pakistan would have produced many Nobels. I have no doubt in my mind. And this is the one field his field was electromagnetism, which opened up the entire technology that we are talking about today. But anyway, that is my small comment. But we must wonder, okay, why US, UK, Germany, France, Sweden, Russia, Switzerland, and Japan are so high up in the number of Nobels. What does it really mean? Are they intellectual or are they intelligent? I think you can easily conclude that these are intellectuals. Okay. Now, why aren't Muslims producing more intellectuals? When we had the most intellectual people not long ago, and this is what happens when you do not pay attention to intellectual intelligence and your growth. So GDP per capita is one of the measures of economic growth. So what I did was I plotted the GDP of all the countries who are part of OIC, the group that I'm talking about. And by the way, I'm very happy to see many of you coming from very far distance. So I want to welcome you especially. So you look at that, okay, all the countries. So the vertical line here is what is the GDP of Europeans and what is the GDP of Americans? Big difference, twice as much. But look at something, I put another line down there, okay, which say I'm not counting them. These are OIC countries, but they don't really have any economy which is a working functional economy that produces value. Okay, now these are all oil-based countries. Look at Qatar has a twice as much GDP as USA. Okay, but what is that they're producing? Okay, in terms of long-term stable growth of economy. So if you look at how Islamic countries have fared, you can see most of them are well below the average GDP, or sorry, the European or US GDP. A couple countries are coming closer. Malaysia is picking up. Turkey has come forward. Unfortunately, their currency fell significantly, so they went sort of back in there. Okay, but look at the countries that have a higher value, and then a whole bunch of countries, okay, that have extremely extreme poverty, literally. Okay, and this is what we need to do. Okay, is to bring science and bring scientists to turn the corner in coming back to a higher level of economic growth. So now I'm going to connect the economic growth to innovation. I call it the US of innovation. No country and no one other than Americans have more patents, for example. Even in one state, okay, in California has 500,000 patents, which is more than I would say 80%, 90% of countries in the world. Now, what is happening, okay? Why is it that Americans are able to get, now keep in mind, okay, there's no bias in the patent office. They don't look at who is filing it, what is your nationality. They are being creative, yes. They are being intellectual, yes. But they're also being intelligent. and converting it into an IP. So look at this example. Italy has 62,000. So Switzerland has a lot of patents, which I'll talk to you why that happens. But the countries which are coming fast, I think are South Korea, China, even India is rising very fast, okay, in number of patents. So this is one indication, your innovation. Now, many times when I visited Pakistan, and I still do, if COVID will allow me, I'll be the first one to hop in and come to see Iqbal Chaudhry right away. Is that why, what is the reason for a US patent? And I will tell you one thing, okay? All the good scientists sitting here in this conference today, okay? And I think Dr. Chaudhry's and Ataur Rahman are one of the best examples I can give you. Look at where their papers are published in some of the most prestigious peer-reviewed journals. Now, there's no sense, okay? I think I call it, if you publish your article in a journal which accepts everything, I call it deforestation program. There's no sense in publishing it, okay? I think all good scientists really care about the prestige from where they publish, not what they publish. So every invention, I'm telling you, not without exception, that became a significant invention in any field, was patented in US first. And the reason is, there is a value when you go through the process of getting patents, you know that if you get a US patent, you have a credible value. So I think my suggestion is that you should do the same thing, go to Europe or US. You don't necessarily have to sell your product in US or Europe, but at least secure that confidence. And that's where I come to a very complex subject, but I will make it very simple. There is a correlation between, they call total factor productivity. Let me explain to you what total factor productivity is. It is the means available versus the output you're able to produce. You know, if I give you $10,000, what do you get the results out of it? So the x-axis, I would call it a smartness axis. Okay, how countries produce a lot based on small resources, or their productivity is higher in proportion to the input. So it's the input-output function. So I call the x-axis as the axis of smartness. Okay. Now, would you be surprised to see how many countries, Nigeria, Guatemala, Jordan, Iran, look at Egypt, very smart. In what terms? In the resources in and the value out, okay. You can also see countries like India and others, you know, which do not produce very well, okay. They are very, so it's called efficiency, okay. But then goes your y-axis, which is the GDP per capita. And that's where I think I feel sorry that even though there are a lot of societies are very smart, it does not convert into GDP. So if you're a statistician, you can see there's a line drawn here. It takes off at about 0.4, and you can see when you go up, okay, that the higher productivity gives you the higher results, okay. So there's something lacking. It's not that the OIC countries or developing countries do not have the smarts, okay. There's something lacking in between, okay, what is not allowing them to produce the GDP contribution. And I think that's the one part that I mentioned early. It's called entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is risk-taking in getting an innovation into hands of the public. The best country, I think, in terms of that converts it faster, okay, is Japan, okay. Japan is not the most productive country, but I think they have done a remarkable job. And you can see other countries like Ireland and Germany and Denmark, they thrive on entrepreneurship. And I think if anything I can say about US based on personal experience is that there's somebody always available to risk a capital to see your idea come through. I don't see that happening in much in the Islamic countries. I am a consultant to many governments, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Algeria, and other places. I go there often, okay? And I don't see that the flair of entrepreneurship, risk-taking, getting into doing things, okay? So all I want to tell you is that productivity does not necessarily always result in better GDP. It requires a missing element, the covalent bond between the innovation and the GDP is the entrepreneurship. So recently, by the way, in year 1902, the head of US Patent Office informed the president of US that anything that could be invented has been invented. Therefore, I recommend that we shut down the patent office. You know what? Since then, more than 9 million patents were issued. US just reached the mark of 10 million patents. And guess who is on the top list of getting patents? Of course, US is first number. Number 2 is Japan. Now, keep in mind, okay, what does a patent do? We'll talk about it. A patent gives you the economic advantage of taking a product into market and making a GDP contribution out of it, okay? So it's not, I think I want you to understand that patent is not necessarily an intellectual exercise, okay, as I will explain to you. It's a business exercise, and countries like Japan, now South Korea is coming up and China is coming up. They all understood the value of taking these patents and going into looking at the various aspects of it, okay? So, and I think this is a very simple chart, which I think we all will understand, okay, that US keeps rising, even despite all the turmoils we have in the government and elsewhere, okay. And other countries, I think Europe is, in a way, I will call decline, because they are getting so conservative in so many approaches that the GDP is not going, or it should have gone a lot higher, okay. They're down to half the US GDP. And I have ideas, or I'd have thinking, and why is that happening? You know what? It may be the history repeating itself, okay. I think where Muslim countries came down and lost this advantage, I think Europe is not doing as well as it could have done. China is rising. It's a long way to go, but I think they got it right, okay, at this point. So let's look at the OIC countries. There are a total of 6,195 US patents held by scientists or non-scientists in all OIC countries combined. And here's a list of how many patents in each country and so on and so forth. Okay. You can see very easily, almost half the patents are held in what? Malaysia, which also has the highest GDP of all the Islamic countries. You know what? I can sit here all day long and tell you and teach you, but this one tells the story, okay? Now, what was most surprising to me, which was a pleasant surprise, is that even though Saudi Arabia doesn't have what you call a functional economy or productive economy, they are very keen on making inventions. Look at there, okay? Number 2 companies, over 1,500 patents are held by Saudis. Very nice way of investing. Now, most of it is because of the support that given by the government, but I'm very happy to see the creativity and intellect that is being used in Saudi Arabia. And then, of course, you can see the rest of its history, after you go down. Pakistan has done well, and I'll talk to you about. But here's the part that important statistics. So in the case of, we have the total population of all OIC countries is 1.8 billion. Okay, that comes out about 1 patent for every 300,000 people, as opposed to 1 patent for 116 people in USA. Now that is no comparison. But I think the scientists in any of these countries are no less smart than any scientist in any other country, Europe or US combined. We have to find the missing link. And one of the link is, how do we get them to secure more IP, especially in those jurisdictions where it matters. Again, very quickly, you can see the number of patents are going up in China, Japan, Germany. These are yearly filings, and all the data are available, so you can see, where this country is going to be. The value of patents, the most valuable patent, in my opinion, was telephone. Can you imagine? It's not a lot of things that you think, okay, it's just something which brings a use value. Telephone brought a use value. The Lipitor, which is a cholesterol drug, produced $125 billion worth of income. If you look at the top companies holding patents, number 1 is IBM. Except for 2 companies in this entire list, they're all technology companies. Of course, patents are based on technology. But look at who is number 2, Samsung, Canon, then comes Microsoft, Intel, and US, so on and so forth. So what I'm saying is that you can project which way the economy will go based on how the patents are assigned to the various societies around the globe. Now, here's the interesting part, because I thought I'm making it a long, boring speech. Okay, so let's have a small laugh also. So Germans are very good in chemistry, okay, and patents. So they have very strong patent laws that came in quite early, okay. Now, back about, I would say about a century ago, okay, Switzerland had no patent protection. A small country, at that time it was 2.5 million people only. So what happened was, the Germans who wanted to steal the patents, the chemistry patents, they moved to Switzerland and established these pharma companies. Now I get beat up every time I say this, okay, because all the big pharma say, that's not true, but it's absolutely true. And so all the big pharma were in Switzerland. In my opinion, this is really a bad model, really bad model. Let me tell you why, okay. India, when I say India, I'm talking about Southeast Asia, Pakistan, India, okay. We are pretty good in chemistry, okay, very good, okay. There are several Nobel Prizes given in chemistry in India. But what India decided to do, instead of respecting the IP, they began infringing it. So they became one of the largest producer of generic chemicals, and they do. I think, I don't know if you know, but a large number of chemical generics in the OIC are coming from India, including Pakistan. But if they had respected the IP at that time and followed the rule of law, they would be 1,000 times richer today. So what happened was, and I'll tell you exactly how in the laws we talk about, what does it do to society, okay, when we stop valuing what you call the IP. So I think Dr. Chaudhary described this before. I'm very proud to be part of this. HEC is the only example in the OIC, where the government has taken a positive step. Actually, it started back, when President Pervez Musharraf came to Chicago, and I invited him to come to my home. He came, and as a courtesy, I asked him, "So what can I do for you?" And he is a military man. He says, "Wait a minute. I don't want you to do anything for me. You tell me what you can do." And then he quoted President Kennedy, "Don't ask what America can do for you. Tell me what you can do for America." He says, "I have dozens and dozens of proposals sitting on my desk what I should do. I'm not interested in that. Tell me what you can do." I said, "You have hit the nail correctly, okay? You don't need my wealth. I don't have much. You don't need that. But I can help kickstart an IP culture in Pakistan." HEC was under the supervision and leadership of Professor Atar Rahman, and we established this program where I'm providing my services, no charge to HEC. Only the actual costs are paid by HEC. And today I'm very proud to say that Pakistan has one of the much larger number of patents than when we started this program. So I just wanted you to know about this program. If any of the countries outside of Pakistan wish to be part of it, I'm sure there's a way of getting it done. So I have already been talking for about an hour. I don't know if you still have energy to last, okay? But let me cover this topic and then we'll take a small break, okay? So what is IP? And IP is not just the patents, okay? In fact, most of the time we get confused. There are 6 things: trademarks, patents, copyright, design, layout design, and trade secrets are all part of intellectual property. So in a patent, there are different types of IPs. In a patents, these are for new inventions, okay? And how do you patent it? You apply for it, and it goes through examination. In Europe, there is a model called utility model, which is also for new invention that does not go through examination. You just file it, it goes on the records only, and it applies in registration. It's not available in US. Copyright, which I think most of you are totally familiar and should be, it's a creative, original, artistic form they call. It could be a song, it could be a poem, it could be a book, and it exists automatically. You don't have to do anything. The moment you finish your writing, you have a copyright. Trademarks are the ones that I don't think you have to be worried too much about. It's more on a business side. Designs can be registered based on their external appearance, and they only require registration. On the other hand, the trade secrets, okay, are very valuable. And the only thing you have to do is to make sure how to keep it secret. So we'll talk about secrecy also. Very quickly, I give you an example of a Nokia phone, okay? So there's a trademark. You can take the trademark. It's called Nokia, product 208, startup tone. Copyright could be software, user manual, ringtones. Then the patents and utility models come, design comes, trade secrets comes. So you can see, how many things get involved in a single product. Okay. Good examples, I'm sure you know all of them, okay. But the diversity is that, let's say Coca-Cola has a trademark. Okay. Apple has dozens of trademarks. Harry Potter books are known. Even the DNA copying process is patented. So there are a variety of things that can be concluded as IP. It's not just the patents. So let's say let's say you have a product you have developed. It's an anti-allergy spray and a can that goes with it. So first of all, you can protect. When I say protect, okay, I'm not saying patent it. Protection means that you have the right, and we'll talk about what it means. Okay. There's a medicinal product in there. There's a nozzle, pumping system, a spray can, your brand name, logo. So there's so many things that go around protecting an intellectual property and leading to a product. So patents and designs, medicinal product can be patents. And then patent for active ingredient. Is it a new ingredient? Is it a new chemical entity? How do you make that entity? It could be another patent, but it could also be kept as a secret, trade secret. Formulation, what do you mix with the inactives that go in there? And the method of use for treating allergies. But that may not be applicable because it all depends on what is the focus of your invention. Okay. If the treatment of allergies and how do you use it, okay, if using through the spray is available, there are a lot of sprays. So it depends on the focus. Is it for treatment of allergies or you are making a patent on the active ingredient? And then, you can go to all the parts of it, okay, that spray can, and all these various IPs can be created for a single product. But who owns them? I think you come to a point, okay, where in all likelihood, you will not be going into these IP protections except perhaps for the active ingredient, the formulation, the design maybe. There could be engineering design of the spray can. But when it comes to selling and the branding, that will likely be outsourced, as I would recommend. You can have a brand name, which can be trademarked. You have a logo, it can be trademark, and copyright. And then, even your domain names, okay, you can include. Now, a domain becomes a very important part of selling. So everybody has to have a control on that. And then comes the topic, which I call copyright. So many years ago, I met somebody, and I don't want to tell you which country it was there, okay? So I asked him, what is copyright? He says, it's the right to copy. I tell you one thing, okay? Nothing has embarrassed me more, okay? And I'll tell you from my experience, okay, of the disrespect of copyright, which has caused so much loss of value. So first of all, there is no international copyright. So you cannot say that I have a global copyright product. What is violation of copyright, I think we all know, is unauthorized use. But it depends on your individual local laws. Okay. But most of the countries today are part of a joint system of law, which I'll tell you, you're covered under that law, so that your work of creation will be protected globally. Should you copyright it as a process? I think it's advisable. You can do it in US, you can do anywhere in Pakistan, or any of your own countries. But every country is bound by the copyright laws, the basics of it, because they are all agreed to conventions. So the protection is about 70 years after the death of the author. Now you can see, how many books from Bible down, okay, are no longer copyrighted. Okay. Any work which is produced for hire, if somebody pays you to write a book, is covered for 120 years after creation or 95 years after publication. There's no death of author involved in this case. Okay. So copyright, very important part of it. Here are the conventions and treaties in which all of Islamic countries are involved. So you don't have to think twice about copywriting your material. It is automatically copyrighted. But I'm talking about copyright for those, okay, who don't respect copyrights. Plagiarism, I do not have words to describe, okay, how serious this issue is. We all know what plagiarism is, but today in the digital era, you give me one paragraph and I can tell you is it plagiarized or not in 30 seconds. I would strongly urge, okay, and I think this is one thing that in Pakistan they do, you must, when you create any thing to publish, make sure you go through a check of plagiarism. There are many programs available. Authenticate is one of them, used mostly by journals, and find out. On the right-hand side, I've done an exercise. I took a small page from a publication, and I ran through. I use Grammarly, which got this available on my desktop, and it immediately said that it's a 9% plagiarism, which is not bad. Okay, when I say 9% plagiarism, it's not bad. A lot of sentences match and so on, but it also tells you where it is being matched and tells you where the information was taken from. So what I'm saying today to you, when you go home, take one lesson, okay? Never, ever send out anything for publishing or anything, put your name on it, unless you do authenticate it yourself, okay, to save you significant embarrassment. I had a project at one time, and I won't disclose details, where I was given 50 PhD theses to check. And I found that 70% of them had data that was already reported elsewhere. They repeated it or copied it, or maybe they did inadvertently. Okay, it was the most shocking evaluation I made, okay, of how the research dollars are wasted because we do not go through the process of understanding that we did not need to perform what has already been performed. And to do that, I will strongly urge all the researchers today to pay attention to the patent database. Now, you can go to PubMed or other places, you get scientific journals. Yeah, very easy to find out. Okay. But the patent databases are not necessarily, they are not present in the literature search. You have to go through the online search of the databases, which I'll describe today. And then I think if you're an advisor supervising a PhD thesis, I think I do this to my students. I tell them to first send me a search report before I approve your work as to why this work is important to do. So it will avoid reinventing the wheel. I mean, there are so many patents given for something that was already invented by mistake or by missing it out. Now it is difficult, but same thing happens in research. You know, you go and develop a new drug, it's already been used elsewhere or disclosed elsewhere. Solutions are found in patent documents. Okay. 80% of information is not available elsewhere. You must, as a scientist, you must be very well versed in searching patent databases. It is not an IT job. It is not anybody else's job. It's your job. And I want you, even if you have 50 students, okay, I want you to do it yourself, okay, because I'll tell you why. It is how you do the search that gives you the data that you require. 90% of its public domain data, and I think there are a lot of protected data also. Even if an application is withdrawn or it is not awarded, still the information available is of great value to you. So before we do that, okay, I think I've taken a lot of your time. I will take a 5-minute a break. I call it bio break. And then we will rejoin in 5 minutes to look at some of the technical parts of a patent and trademarks but most important, okay, how to do the search to become a more intellectual and also more intelligent. Thank you very much. Pause.
Thank you, Doctor. Very nice presentation so far. I would like to request all participants to send their names during this session because this training session is a certificate course. So those participants, can you hear? So only those participants who have sent their names, they will receive certificate. So it is very important that you send your names that we will consider as your attendance record, and only those participants who will send their names, they will be awarded by this certificate for this training session. And the second thing is that we will send you this certificate after 2 weeks of this course.
Can we start now?
Okay, doctor, please start.
Okay. Well, welcome back. I hope this was a short break, but sometimes these topics can get very boring. Okay, so I want you to put something in the back of your mind. Our mind is very interesting. Okay, if you put a value in it, then even the most boring thing becomes interesting. So I'm a scientist, a small scientist. Most of you are big scientists. But when I got involved with patenting, so I had my own inventions many years ago, and I had a difficulty connecting with the patent lawyers in what is I'm trying to invent. Okay. So I decided that, I think I want to be a patent practitioner also. So in US, there's a law that says that you can challenge the bar examination, and if you pass, you can practice it. Okay. So I said, let me try that. So I have a license now to practice in US. What I learned from this exercise was that there are so many nuances. How do you convert an idea into a patentable idea is a very fine line. Okay. And I think this is what I want to convey to the researchers today is that if you're going to do something, do it in such a way that it ends up resulting in an IP better than no IP. Now, it is not important that every patent that you have end up making you $1 billion. No, it's not important. But you're making a contribution to science also. So here we talk about what is a patent. So in fact, let me just show you one thing. I just received this yesterday, a package from patent office. Okay. This is the patent that, this is what it looks like. Here we go. And this is for a synthesis of a compound. And I think this is a Pakistani patent here that I'll be mailing out today, okay? It's a beautiful document, I like this, okay? So what I'm saying is that put yourself a reward in there, okay? How can I design something that's patentable instead of just publishable? So what's a patent, okay? A patent is a legal title in the jurisdiction, of course, Now keep one thing in mind, very important. The patent is the right to prevent others. It is not the right to you to sell something, to prevent others. You can also sell. Okay. Now, and the patent is granted and so on and so forth. It has a limit of 20 years from date of filing. And nearly every country around the world has a patent system that they allow these rights, okay? So what is the role of patent system? The role is to encourage technological innovation. That's why the whole started. Okay? Now, today, if I discover a new drug for treatment of cancer and I want to sell it globally, I would have very little success, okay, unless I have a patent to protect it, because it's going to cost the developer $1 billion to develop the drug, and they want to recoup the investment. And it's ironic and sometimes sad, okay, some of the best inventions that could have helped mankind are shelved only because they were not sufficiently patented. Its also purpose is to promote technology transfer and to provide basically enlightenment to the scientific world. So let's take a very quick look at the history of patenting. I think one of the oldest patent was 600 BC, which is about 2,700 years ago. It was given. So kind of a loaf of bread. Okay. One of the first British patent was given in 1449 for a glass maker making the glass windows, which are different colors, and you see in the churches all the time. Then the most important act that came in was the Venetian Act of 1474, which is the basis of all patent laws today. In England, it was only in 1624 that they made the laws, because at that time, you know what they were, the rulers, the kings and queens were giving the patents to anybody they liked. Anybody who served them a good coffee, here's your patent, okay, as a reward, okay. And they said, no, it has to be for a demonstrable novelty. The strongest patent law that came in was in 1787 in US Constitution laid out. And I think this was one amendment to the Constitution here that laid the groundwork for the prosperity of America. We just surpassed 10 million patents, okay. And the EU patents combined came in only about 30 years ago. So the patents are all around, okay. I mean, think of it, okay. If you go and search the patent databases on bicycles, okay, you'll see thousands and thousands of patents. We did a search on toothbrushes, okay. There are about 2,000 patents on different kinds of toothbrushes. So you see patents all around. In fact, I find it very exciting when well, not exciting, I mean, I find it interesting when you go and look at what are the things that are patented, okay. Of course, I'm sure you'll find such lists everywhere, okay. But in my opinion, because some of these patents are very exciting, okay. The World Wide Web, which is allowing us to talk today, came from University of Illinois, where I teach. In 1980, there was a very interesting legal patent fight that went to Supreme Court. It's called Diamond versus Chakrabarti, where he challenged that the living entities can be patented, recombinant entities can be patented. Okay. So I think that changed the laws. So I'm sure you have your own list, okay, but there are a lot of very interesting patents, and reading them in the historical context is very important. I just wanted to give you an overall view of how the patents are protected, okay. There are several cooperatives, and like GCC has its own cooperative, EuropeUS, you know this very well. Then there are African, Eurasian, Nordic, and then other. And of course, there are WIPO, which is the part of United Nations. So there are a lot of groups that protect each other across the globe. But one of the things that I'm failing to understand, okay, one of the best cooperation is a PCT. It's called Patent Cooperative Treaty, which allows you 12 months after you file a patent to file anywhere else in the world. I think there are few countries which are out of this treaty still, including Pakistan. And you can see other names, okay. Bangladesh is out, okay. I don't understand, okay, what is the advantage of not being part of a protection? Because all it does, it reduces the value of your patent to nothing. But I'm bringing it to you. If some of you have ability to push this, I think every country should be part of PCT. Afghanistan is not there. And I've highlighted the countries which are part of OIC, which are not part of PCT. Does a patent give you right to exploit invention? No. Why? I'll give you an example. Because it's a negative right. It gives you the right to prevent others by others. I give you an example, okay? I have a patent on sildenafil citrate, which is used for male erectile dysfunction. I improve the activity, reduce the dose. But there is an NCE patent that Pfizer had. So even though I have a patent on a product, I cannot use it because the chemical entity was covered by Pfizer. A good example. I'll give you my own example. But you do have a right to assign, sell, just like your property. Now comes to the point, what can and cannot be patented? Very important. This is where I think the scientists really need to spend a little bit of time understanding where the IP comes, okay? It has to be new. Some call it novel or new. That is, it's not available to the public anywhere in the world. This is important. It must be inventive. In other words, something new which doesn't really create anything which you call the non-obvious solution, and we'll talk about that briefly. And then it has some application, which is probably the easiest thing to demonstrate. Everything has an application. So everybody will pass that part, okay? New and inventive is where most of the difficulties come. And I can tell you from my own patent law practice, okay, part of my success has come from being able to argue with examiners as to why an invention is inventive. New part is no doubt. If the examiner shows this is already known, that cuts out the patent, okay. But obviousness is where you need some science to argue with the examiners, okay. So patents are there to solve an issue, a problem, or it doesn't necessarily have to be a problem that the patent office thinks is a problem. Can you get a patent for reduced cost? Yes, you can. Can you get a patent for a product that is lasting times longer? Yes, you can. But what you cannot patent are the laws of nature. Okay, so Einstein got the theory of relativity and he felt into gravity. You know what? What if he had a patent on gravity? Or he'll be gravitating with a lot of money. Business methods. Now, some business methods are allowed in US, but most of them are not allowed. And through a Supreme Court decision, at least in US, okay, if a surgeon finds a new technique to fix a patient, he cannot patent that. They said they think this is unethical to prevent others from doing something which is good for the patient. Or how you diagnose it or treat a disease, okay, it's not patentable. Also, anything which is immoral or illegal. I mean, you cannot create a patent for or cheating in Las Vegas, for example. People tried it, okay? People tried it, okay? Doesn't work. And then you have a plants or animal varieties cannot be patented. And also something which they call inherent property. In other words, if you say, and I think this is something that we face many times in Pakistan, okay, if you have a new plant extract which has an activity, but the property is inherent, means, let's say if this plant has been used for hundreds of years for a certain disease treatment, and you found something that is also treating the disease. So this was an inherent property of the plant extract. So you have to show the inventive part on it, why it would not be connected. Generally, inherent property is very difficult to argue, but I've been successful in many cases, so it's a touchy subject. But you know what? When you get bored with your writing your research paper and thesis, I think there is a very interesting listing of all the patents that have been issued over time. I think there is I love this patent on the right-hand side. It shows how to wake somebody up, There's a clock that hits you, okay? The reason I'm showing you this, okay, is that all of them look crazy to you. To me, they do. But they're patents. So a patent does not have to be sensible. It has to be new, inventive, and useful in your opinion. Do you know that toilet paper was patented? Yes. Patent expired, of course, Do you know the game Monopoly was patented? And your regular table fan had a patent on it. Okay. I like those patents. Okay. You know what? We use those things every day and never realize that at one time they were new, novel, and useful. So these are social contracts. You get to tell the whole story to the public so that once the patent expires, they can practice it. In Europe, they allow you what you call utility model, where you have you don't have to go through the whole process. I don't want to go in detail here, okay, but you get about 10 years of protection. A similar thing is available in US, which is called provisional patent, where you get 1 year before you file your non-provisional, and the provisional patent is not reviewed, just registered to keep your timeline in order. Again, I said new, inventive, and industrial applicable. Last part is no issue at all. I can show you everything is useful, so I wouldn't worry about that. Test of novelty is an objective test. It's not subjective, objective test that anybody should be able to say that this is a novel. Are all the components of the claim of invention known? So you first of all find out, is everything about what you are saying is my invention is known or not? There's a word you call the state of the art, and they call prior art. It simply means that any disclosures available in any publication available to anybody, okay? Now, here's the part of it, okay? If you are not able to find a disclosure, no matter how hard you research or search, and the patent office finds it, then they win. You cannot give an excuse, well, I couldn't find anything, okay? How can you find it? It's not an excuse. If there's a proof, going back to what you call objective proof. So what happens in most cases is the patent examiners are pretty smart guys, okay? They do this every day for a living. They pick up things that I didn't even know is possible to exist. In old libraries and in remote New Zealand library, there's a book that says this, I'm surprised enough times, okay? Now, the only thing that's important is that whatever disclosure or the prior knowledge has to be available before the date when you file the patent, or before they call priority date, okay, in case you use non or provisional patent, okay. Anything that came after that is automatically rejected as the prior art. A single prior art is enough to destroy your patent, okay. And by the way, okay, to your own surprise, okay, your own publication, when they look at it, they don't look at this as your publication. They look at it as a publication. And you can destroy your own IP with your own disclosures. Of course, there are some rules that allow you, for example, 12 months to file a patent. So one thing you want to do is do not publish anything. Do not disclose it to anybody, okay? Don't use any blogs or even anything you post on Facebook or LinkedIn, okay? It's called disclosure. Also, don't sell the product that has your invention. Sell. The moment you made a single dollar before you file the patent, okay, it's considered to be a disclosure. And what you should do is, if you're going to talk to somebody you have to sign an NDA, professional advice, and file as soon as possible. A couple words about NDAs, the non-disclosure agreement, I have a couple slides on that, okay? I had some poor experiences, so I'll share this with you, what not to do. Let's say we have, this was a good example which is available in EPO. Somebody invented a kettle with two spouts, okay? So they're claiming that a vessel comprising a compartment for liquid, which is the body, one handle, a lid, and two spouts, and they have the same height. So the question was, is this patentable? So first thing we do, we look at the prior art. We found, yeah, there is a teapot with one spout, yeah. And then there's a device that has several nozzles, like this is a device used in the fertilizer display. A filter handle, handle with two spouts to be used for coffee maker is available. And then an oil and vinegar bottle is available, which shows a bottle inside the bottle and has the two spouts. Now the patent office goes into inventive step, okay? What is the closest prior art which has common features? A compartment for liquids, a handle, a lid, one spout, not two spouts. Difference is there were no two spouts in that will match all the first four parts of the invention, okay? One of the drawback of prior art is time consuming, but those are the small issues. But the advantage of invention is the time needed to fill multiple cups. If I like this example because it just freshens up your mind, If you have a guest and you want to pour the tea to two people, it's called tea for two. I'm not being funny, okay? But that's what it is for, okay? And then basically it's a modification of a teapot. And one of the application is that it reduces the time needed to fill multiple cups, okay? Now comes the point, you are examiner, what would you say? Is it patentable or is it not patentable? So you will question all those parts of it, okay? Then you will say, yeah, this has a two parts, so that is okay. Sorry. Let me go back, sorry. Here we go. So the final conclusion is, yes, it is patentable because you were not able to find in any prior art all the features of it. You see the point? Yes, there are products with two nozzles, the products with a part to hold, but there's nothing that has a two spouts in a container. It doesn't say what is used for. So this is a patentable invention. The reason I'm talking about such minor things to you is that when you design your research project, okay, see what you can add to it, which is not in prior art, which will make it an invention. It's not difficult. It's just you have to know, first of all, what is the prior art? And then you say, okay, how if I switch around, okay? If you have discovered, let's say, treatment of epilepsy, okay, for using a drug, okay, what can you add on to it? Is it, maybe I can add a range of dose or a route of administration or something on top of it that will make it difficult to overcome, because each of your parts of your invention must be met, not one or two. And then there are design patents. I have a hat, I wear all the time. I have a patent on hat. I have a few utility patents, okay, but this is the design patent. So a design patent is good enough for 15 years. It has only one claim which says, look at the picture. So I wanted to see. So in this hat, okay, you will see the small holes there in the brim. and it is used to prevent the hat from flying when you're wearing it in a windy city, which is Chicago. So this hat does not fly off. There's a hat company making it, okay, but it was a lot of fun, fighting with the examiners on how to create something novel in terms of design. So this is different than the utility patent. So how long it takes for the invention to get through there, okay? Sometimes it takes a very long time, okay? I think what has happened is that in US, okay, if it takes more than 3 years from the date of filing and the fault is the patent office fault, then they add those days to your patent life, okay? So it's quite a process, okay? But you can condense all these things or compress them if you take a stepwise approach. So you wanted to do a project, okay? First thing I would do is look at the prior art. The prior art is not only for invention, okay? Prior art is for your research. Who has done what in this field? And that is where I think most of the scientists fail, because they assume, oh, this is so novel, I haven't heard of it, anybody doing it. Wait a minute. I tell you what, frankly speaking, I've been humbled more times than I wanted to be when I thought, my goodness, I have an idea. Nobody could ever think of it. I go down there, I found 100 people who all thought of it before I did. And then comes times, okay, when I file a patent and the examiner says, oh, this is too obvious. Somebody must have thought of it before you. I said, well, that person is also me. And of course I get a patent. So what I'm saying is the planning is where the value is, okay? Nobody has money to waste or time to waste in research if it's not productive. So all I'm suggesting to you today is plan correctly, okay? First you plan to see how you will create a value proposition instead of just a proposition. Very important, okay? To get a patent, okay? It's a inventive step that kills, I would say, 90% of patents, okay? So they have designed a vocabulary. It's called a person of ordinary skill in the art. Basically, a person who knows everything but has no imagination. If that person can think of it or create this, then it is obvious, So this is where you get very difficult questions from examiner. Okay, well, this is obvious. Okay, if you're a chemist, okay, you know how to add these two molecules. So it's obvious. Let's say if you take two antibiotics, and you find that it has twice the effect. Okay, well, that's an obvious. Okay, you know how to treat patients. Okay, but if you add two antibiotics and you have 10 times the effect, that's not obvious. So I think what happens is this, okay, the most difficult part you will face is this obvious to somebody or not? I think you're the only one who can answer. If you put a thinking hat, let's say I know my art, but I'm not imaginative. Would I think of it? The unfortunate part today is that a person with ordinary skills probably has 5 PhDs in many sciences. So it's very difficult to beat that part of invention. And that's where I work very hard in making sure that the inventions get approved by giving a proper arguments. I think you don't have to be expert. In other words, a plumber can design a new chemical entity, yes. You don't have to prove that you are trained in the field, no. There's no proof required. Also, you don't have to prove how an invention works. If it works, period. There's no requirement to connect the two. So ordinary skills, yes, but also you don't have to be an expert or scientist. By the way, you don't even have to be a genius at all, okay, to get into IP. You just have to be smart, number one. And remember what I said, creativity, which is objective, leading to something useful, okay. So, yes, hanging a patent in your office will be good, okay. But I wouldn't go very far in saying, okay, therefore I'm a very intelligent man. No, I'm a practical man. I know how to convert my science into an IP. Now, should you patent your invention? Well, my advice is a cost-benefit analysis. First of all, you should find out, is it patentable? New, inventive, yes. Do you have a right to invention? If you're part of the company, part of university, and then I think it's always a good idea to seek legal advice, because as I mentioned earlier, okay, when I wrote my bar exam, I realized, gosh, I know a little bit of science, okay, but I didn't know law is more complex than science. Instead of a comma, if there is a semicolon, that can mean a very different thing, okay? So it helps to get advice, and that's what I did, okay? I offered to Pakistan, okay? I have a small team here. We give evaluation, no charge to the country, because I think they need it to get the job done. And I think some of the institutions have done exceedingly well, okay? Especially Dr. Chaudhry's unit has done remarkable, okay? I'm so proud of him. So there are advantages and disadvantages. I think we all know the advantages, okay? It's your property, you can sell, license, make money. It can be expensive, but luckily we have cut the cost down. It takes 3 to 5 years, okay? I think now, depending on which area of patenting, if you bring a technology patent, yes, it will take longer, okay, than some other fields that don't have as many patents going in. And then everybody will know what you're doing in 18 months when your patent gets published, and then somebody can find a better product. What happens if you decide not to patent? Somebody else might patent it. Competitors might take advantage of it, and then you lose opportunity to earn income. So what has happened overall is that patenting has become similar to publishing. It's a credential, okay? The credential doesn't have to end up all the time in a cash return, okay? But it is definitely a very valid credential that you have something new, inventive, and useful. What are the advantages to patenting? You can keep it secret. And one of the things that always I tell people, okay, do nothing is the easiest thing to do, do nothing. That's one thing you can do. But you can disclose that information, you keep it secret. So let's take a look at very quickly, how is the patent structured, okay? Here's one of my patents, it has many parts to it. You always get a name of inventor, date of filing. There's a technical classification. The reason I'm showing this to you, because these things are very useful in doing your search, okay? You can search by the invention, or you can search by the classification, which gives you a better understanding. Then you have, of course, there's an abstract involved there, and there's a description which is not here, and the claims and drawings that go with it, okay? It also lists, like in this case, the examiner, the names is there, and then my biotech company, we did this. So my name is there, and also Cheryl's name, which is my assistant. So it's our own patent. We did the own prosecution. It's a bioreactor. So title is important. Okay? Make sure the title conveys the exact meaning, because in the search when it shows up, okay, make it as short as possible, but as relevant as possible. Instead of saying a method to treat epilepsy by giving XYZ at 5 milligram doses, epilepsy treatment in children. That's it. Now when somebody will search, okay, you want them to pick up children, epilepsy and treatment. Abstract should be a very short summary, very short. And then there comes the description. All they call, has many parts to it. The overall, it's everything you have here is called a specification, not specifications. Okay. This document that goes with the patent, once you submit it, you cannot change a single word in it. Not a grammar, not a punctuation, nothing can be changed. It gets carved because it gets dated. The only thing you can change is the claims that we talk about. So you have to be very careful in writing a specification, because once you pay the fee, it gets locked in, okay, cannot be changed. I think it is well known. The claims is where everything comes down, okay, where I would like you to look at how you write the claim. Okay. Now, keep in mind, a claim is a legal description, just like if you're selling a property, where is your product located, what is the dimension, that's what the claim is all about. So first you have independent claims, which is the broadest claim. You know, I have a product to treat epilepsy, that's my broad claim. Okay. Then you come dependent claim, okay, which narrow down the claim. I have a product to treat epilepsy by administering 2 milligrams of product X to patients who of this age. Okay, so now you're coming down and down, down, down. Independent claims are the ones that describe an invention, a process, apparatus, and whatever you have. Okay, and dependent claims are only follow through with those independent claims. You cannot mix in two different kinds of inventions. You can have an invention for a device, but you cannot combine that with invention for a process. There are some products that can be a claim and the product by process, but it gets a little complex, okay? But I don't want you to spend too much energy in understanding the language of claim, because it will frustrate you. It did frustrate me. Sometimes they look so funny when you read them, okay? But that's all part of being legal. These are boundaries, okay? Then there is some parts of it I want you to know. It's called preamble. When you start the statement, okay, you say a method for treating diabetes comprising, then anything before comprising is not part of your patent. You're not claiming that. What comprising means, what is it, the invention that you will describe afterwards? So don't confuse the preamble with your invention. Don't put your invention in preamble. The preamble is simply describe what is the invention. And then after comprising, it says, how does it work? The language is very particular about antecedent. Antecedent simply means that you cannot say anything with the, unless you have said it, same thing before with the a. The reason is, you can give any meaning to any English word. It's up to you. But you have to define first, okay? Using A means you're generically describing the product, and then in the rest of the claim, you can say the, in which case it will refer to only that definition that you have given yourself in the patent. That's why I think I have seen a lot of time, inventors or scientists are sending in their claims, which include the entire discussion, but it's only allowed one period in each claim. 2 periods, the claim gets rejected. It has a single sentence. Now think of it, okay, how many things you can put in a single sentence, that becomes an art, okay? So, okay. So going back to my favorite teapot, by the way, I have not seen it selling anywhere. If you find it, okay, I think it will be a good thing to have, okay? So you can see that, okay? What does a description contain? It contains everything what this pot does, okay? Solution, advantages, it describes everything, okay? In EU, as we said, there's there are several kinds of patents in EU. The one called unitary patent, and then others that apply to regional patents and national route. US has only one patent system, but the PCT is one, okay, which was signed in 1970. Most countries have it, okay. I still encourage you to go back. If your country is not part of it, okay, I think it should be as soon as possible. Before you application, the procedure follows simple. Application is filed, a search report is issued in EPO, it's published. You can withdraw before or after publishing, then it's examined and then granted, okay? And it can take 4 to 5 years. And then comes the opposition. Once they publish the patent, okay, you can oppose it. And then it goes into individual and national offices. After it is published, it goes through opposition, limitation, revocation, renewal fees, and the whole process, okay? So it's not that you obtain a copy just like your research paper, you're done with it, okay? You still have to pay the fee, periodic fees. And if someone challenges your patent, okay, you have to be able to fight it out, okay, because it's a legal document. There's one country in Europe, very small country. I don't want to name them because I don't want to ridicule them. They have a patent office where 2 people work. They said that we don't have enough support to examine your patent. So if you file a patent before noon, you can get the patent issued by 5 o'clock same day. You pay the fee and you get a patent. Done. Now, you have European patent. Why? They say, you know what? You go and fight in the courts, okay, this patent is infringing or not, okay. Well, I think that the reason I'm mentioning it to you, okay, I'm not being facetious. I like to be funny at times, but not being facetious today, is that it is better than many patent offices around the world, okay, who make a mockery out of it, okay. I've seen the patent issued in many countries. I cannot tell you, okay, how embarrassing it is, okay. They have no resources to examine, no way of looking at it. They're poorly written, they're poorly printed. I mean, it's just it's the mockery of it, okay. So what I do is I tell all of my friends and my associates, okay, get a US patent, get a European patent if you want to be proud of it, okay. Because there's no sense getting a patent, okay. It is similar to getting your paper published in a non-refereed journal, okay. Enough. So US has patents, there is a planned patent. Non-provisional should be applied within 12 months of provisional. I would say 90% patents are utility patent. Utility means usefulness. So they are based on usefulness. And then comes the infringement, okay. How do you know if a patent is infringed, okay? I think that is a very complex process. One of the things is that if you know all what infringing means, okay, you take somebody's invention and benefit from it, okay. It differs from countries, okay. For example, some countries do not allow what you call the use patents. Some countries don't allow chemical patents. Some countries don't allow certain other kinds of patents, okay. So what is infringement in one place doesn't have to be infringement in other countries. It is based on claims. But here's the thing, okay. An infringement occurs when the infringing product possesses all the features of the claim invention, not part of it. Okay. That's important to know. Let's say there is a very simple example. There's a company in Italy which is making scissors with 2 eyes and a rubber coating. And there is another scissor which is patented in UK, which doesn't have this plastic coating, which is infringing which, okay. So here's what happens, okay, is that because the the scissors that has the plastic in here, okay, plastic eyes, okay, uh, has the features which are not all of them are present in this feature, okay. So they can sell this product, which is patented in Italy, to sell in Italy, but not in UK. But they cannot stop the UK coming in, selling in here, because it doesn't have all the features of the Italian patent, okay. Yeah, this is within the protection, and Italy, okay, no, they don't have the patent in Italy. So you can see that they have to have all the parts before you say infringing, okay. So many a times, okay, it's very difficult for scientists to establish. So if you find somebody is infringing your patent, I think you need to get a legal advice, okay, before deciding that it is infringed or not. There's another pair of scissors, of course, it doesn't have those little holes in there, so it doesn't comply with that thing. Trade secrets, this Article 39 of WTO gives you that you have a right to proprietary information. It includes that part of it. Know-how is something that in many cases you keep it. In your case, okay, as a scientist, if you're trying to commercialize your product, one way is to get a patent, okay, but other way is to keep your knowledge such that it can be transferred to a license. You can also license this whole invention. It doesn't have to be patented, okay. And know-how includes many things, okay. It's not just includes formulas, instructions, papers, documents, you name it, okay. It's all part of it. A trade secret is something that is not generally known. It has a commercial value, and it's no life, you know. I mean, unless patent, you go and you get 20 years, okay. I can die with my secret, okay. It will be good for all time, you know. So you can keep the secrets and sell the secrets also. There's no registry required because then it's not secret anymore. It depends entirely on how you keep your secret. As long as you can maintain it, you know, it can last forever, okay. But in order to be called a secret or a know-how, legally I'm talking about, based on the TRIPS agreement, it must be kept confidential, number one. If it is shared with anybody else, then it should be into mutual confidentiality agreements. Okay. Now, the agreements state clearly what is not confidential. Something available in public domain, already known to receiving party, very simple statement you will find in every agreement. And anything given to third parties with no restrictions. And then information is public disclosure required by law or statutory regulation. If courts require you to disclose, you have to disclose. You cannot keep it confidential. There are a lot of pros and cons of confidentiality. Of course, we know the pros, it's indefinite, but I think very few people have the ability to keep something confidential. Somebody somewhere leaks out things, okay. So there's a lot of, so here's the part on the right-hand side. There are two rules in life. Number one is never give out all the information. Number two, read number one. That's the only way, if you want to keep it confidential, it will work. Most of the time in an academic environment or in a large company, it becomes almost impossible. But if you look at how the big tech companies, look at Apple company, surprises me, okay. On 15th September, they are disclosing their new products coming in. Nobody knows what they are. Come on, they're manufacturing it. There are millions of pieces moving, but they are good in keeping secrets, okay. But it's not easy. You can write disclosure agreement, which are known. You can download them online. They are very simple, straightforward, two-way disclosure statements. And then it's up to you, how do you keep your information updated, okay? As the more information becomes available, you should do that. You should mark something that is confidential should be marked on the paper as confidential, restricted access. Otherwise, you cannot use this in any litigation. NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. I think our president, Trump, is very good in signing NDAs with anybody he meets, okay? And in the end, they end up telling the whole story. Then there should be some consequences of disclosure. And again, there are a lot of things that go in NDA. I don't know why I'm showing it to you, but if it is a serious invention, get a lawyer involved when writing an NDA. But the only thing I want to teach you today with my personal experience is that NDA is a piece of paper. And a true teaching is a paper sign is only worth depending on who is signing. Otherwise, it's not even worth the piece of paper. If you know, there are some countries who have, they are the ones that say that copyright is the right to copy, okay? There are at least 2 countries where I would never sign an NDA because I know they would never follow it and there's nothing I can do. So I always say, if you have got to go to the court to defend your NDA, you have already lost the game. Don't sign NDAs with those who don't have a reliable prestige or reliable history, okay? Management of IP, developing, protecting. Universities do a great job, and I think they should do even a greater job in promoting it. I think we have some very senior fellows sitting here who have the ability to create these regulations. I think I would say almost half the big inventions and big companies in US have spun out of academic environment. I think that you need to establish how do we develop and monopolize and protect the IP. Hello? So there is always, how do you create a monopoly? So what happens is this, okay, scientists are so engrossed in their research and in their thinking. Sometimes the best thing is to do is to talk to some of your associates, okay, who may or may not be in the same field, okay, and you talk about how do we create a monopoly and how do you create a portfolio. Now, it is, even though I think Islamic countries have fallen back in providing financing and investments and entrepreneurship, we are living today in a global world. Okay? You may have boundaries of your country, but an idea and invention doesn't know any boundaries. Keep that in mind, okay? Don't let that distract you or dishearten you if you cannot find the support within your own country, okay, to put your IP to better use. Again, the 4 elements are simple, they should be creating opportunities, the way of evaluating IP and protecting it, and then exploiting it, okay? And the IP policies, every university, at least I know in US, has a formal IP department that has policies. What happens if the invention is made? What income goes to the inventors? All those things are written down. What is the procedure of disclosing it to the university IP departments, and then how you go about doing it, okay? And I think this is one thing that is missing in many parts of the world, where we take the scientists for granted and leave everything to them. I think if you can go back and talk to your own universities, see if they could have a more formal program, this will go a long way. I think there are a lot of strategies the business universities can take. And then there are so many possibilities, but there has to be a university IP policy, which I think is missing in many places that need to be developed. Things that are important are often very simple. Are you keeping labs and notebooks? Are you keeping papers, okay, that show you invented something? You have a record of proving something, okay? All those things may sound at times silly, okay, but they have a value. There's no, it's a good lab notebook is very important in writing papers and also to proving the dates, okay, how you inventions were made, okay. If you're collaborating with somebody, what kind of information you have disclosed to them is important. Let's say notebooks are very good practice. I think scientists are very notorious, okay. Some don't like to follow these things, okay. Don't use the scribble papers. So do not use a paper unless this is on a paper that is not bound to anything, okay. A single paper is a bad news. And then they got, there's invention disclosure form universities have that you can fill it out. Any researcher should fill out and relate to them. They also tell them about proprietary information, when to publish it. I think I have run into many situations where the inventors have published it and then come to me and say, oh, I want to patent it. I say, fine, you have 7 days left to file, okay, or your invention becomes in a public domain. So if you think there is a value to it, okay, then follow your IP strategy first before you go out to publish. By the way, you have 12 months after the publication appears before you can file a patent, so it's not that bad. All those things again, collaborations again, you have to tell them, you know, how you can collaborate with other universities, other companies. This all should be recorded and documented. Commercialization, same thing, you know, the purpose is to take it out and see. And I'll give you an example, not a good example. I was in Pakistan, okay, in a university, and I was telling a similar slide. I said, you know, you have to create things that make money, okay? And this scientist got upset, okay? He says, you know, I'm a scientist. My job is not to create anything useful. He meant commercial. So let me tell you something, okay? If you don't produce something commercial, it does not get into the hands of people who will benefit from it. So it's not just that you should make money, okay? I want every scientist to become rich. Everyone who has an idea. There's nothing wrong in making money, doing it the right way, okay? And I think somehow in some cultures, okay, we say, okay, I'm a pure scientist, okay? I said, pure scientist with a pure idea should result in some pure income also, because then many people can benefit. So I think that change of mindset is what happened in the West when they took all the inventions from Muslim scientists and converted it into value. Tech transfer, there's a whole process of how do you transfer technology. There are books written on it. So you have to follow that procedure that when you go through. And I think I don't want to take too much time in IP management because this is something you may not be directly involved, but certainly an understanding of what takes place is important for you to move your IP. As I said, okay, there are many milestones required. There are payments to be made, nationalization, and so on. Those are technical parts that the lawyers will take care of it, okay. The thing called value search, okay. We can find out how often a patent has been referred to in other patents to see how valuable it is. I found this to be a very good exercise, okay. It's called value search, okay. This patent was quoted 1,300 times in 2015. Well, it means there is a value to it. Okay. Licensing IP benefits are many. Spin outs, you know, so you have one invention, how can you improve upon it? I tell you what, many companies and universities take pride in spinning it out inventions. You have one invention and they have the whole series of inventions that go along with it because they are good at it. I think this is the most important thing to learn today is how to search. Search for patenting is easy. You can go to spacenet.com, first source. And but you have to use the right keywords, okay? You know, if you have not done it, okay, if you're not IT savvy or computer savvy, I have a bad news for you. Okay? You know, you're not going to do very well, okay? I think that era is gone when you can say, okay, I have my assistant will take care of it. There's no, you are your assistant. You got to sit there yourself. You got to get the right search words involved there and define it correctly, okay? Instead of saying many, we call plurality in patents. So there are a lot of patent jargon which is used, okay, that you have to get familiar with. And I can tell you, okay, there are so many links available that you can use today. Besides, of course, your favorite. Google also has a patent search, okay, separate, which is very good. Now, you can also do online searches. You can pay companies to do it for you. But I think the best thing is that you can do just good a job because you are the one who owns the IP. You can go and find out how many patents I have. And then you can go to individual search offices. If you, in addition to SpaceNet and US Patent Office, there are some specific patent searches also available. You will be surprised, you know. In fact, I tell my students, okay, you want to get a good idea? Go look at the patents, okay. There's so many things that are disclosed in patents, okay, which are not part of claims, okay. It's fantastic, you know. This document is written by somebody who's very creative, okay. So, you know what, if you want to get some free ideas, go look at the patents, read them in your field and see what others are doing, okay. There's a one law in patent world is that ignorance is not an excuse. You cannot say, okay, I couldn't find it, okay. Well, it's too bad. It's not an excuse. SpaceNet is excellent, very user-friendly. You can do special word search and you can do special part search. You can download technology search. I mean, literally, I would strongly urge any major institution to set up a small course in teaching. Maybe your IT department can set it up, okay, but somebody should teach you. And there are some tutorials available on YouTube and others, how to do the search. Very important, okay, that you do the complete search, legal search, validity search, commercial relevance search. Then you can download this search in mass. So you can work on it. You can also go to epo.org and search there. The US Patent Office has provided an excellent training program on its line. And if anybody is interested, okay, I say you go there. I'm just showing you a few things from the US Patent Office, okay. It is so easy to go through. They have a 7-step search guide, okay. I mean, I tell you what, okay, if there's one thing I will recommend everyone to read through and spend a couple hours is on USPTO website and how to do the search and how to access the best information that's available out there. I'm just flipping through it, okay, how to search it, because I don't want to take your time and think that you need to learn yourself, okay. I think you can, the irony is you cannot let anybody else do it, because as you are doing the search, your mind is also revolving and giving you ideas that you can continue to improve upon, okay. So the search is not a mechanical function, okay. It's actually very intellectual exercise, okay, when you do the searching. So here's a take-home advice. We all always have take-home advice. When you go home, take this advice from an old man in Chicago. It goes like this, okay. We live in a global economy. You may be part of a small country, big country, I don't care, okay? But you're part of the world economy. The value you will create has a global value. You don't have to sell your invention in your country or anywhere, but perform local and act global. All the barriers are gone, zero. Now, then I come to this point, which I am feeling strong. It says creating value is your moral obligation and responsibility. You know, there are so many people in 180 million people living in OIC who are not able to do what you can do. Improving the life of your people and the world community at large is the moral responsibility and obligation of scientists. Why Islamic countries have fallen back? I think we need a quick revival. I want the scientists to take a more practical approach. Practical. And good examples in front of you. China, Japan, South Korea, Israel, India have done such a great job, you know. Japan is one great example. They know how to connect things, okay. They're not very good in science, but they're very good in technology. And then one statement I will make to you, which many of you will probably disagree because you think you're a purist. If you generate income for your country or for yourself, it's not a dirty word. You know what? Somehow the money and income have been associated with things wrong in societies where income is done in a wrong way. Okay, I want you to create things. I want you to become famous. I want you to become very rich, and I want you to make your country rich. Okay, that's what the West did. Okay, when they stole everything from Islamic countries and became rich. And finally, okay, I would strongly urge you to be internationally competitive. You know, I'm very proud of so many papers coming out from universities in many Islamic countries, which are in the finest of the journals. And that's where you should publish it. Do not publish anything in a journal that doesn't have a international reputation, not domestic reputation. So please don't take me wrong, okay? I'm not trying to knock down your local publications, okay? That's your choice, okay? But if it's worth publishing, it's worth publishing it where you can get recognized. And same thing happens to your patenting, okay? You know, so many Pakistanis have been able to get this beautiful copy. You know, I'm so happy when I mail this back to everybody. And you know, you can say that this is worthwhile because who has judged it, okay, to say that this is new, inventive, and useful, except the agencies that know how to do it right. So with those words, I would like to thank you for your patience, for listening to this man with a non-stop rhetoric. And I wish you a lot of success in life before and after the lockdown. But as a scientist to scientist, okay, let me share one thing with you, which is closest to my heart. And that is, you are blessed to have a mind that can think. It'll be shame if you don't let it give the value back to your own society. You owe it. It's not an option. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. for a very nice and very comprehensive presentation. This would be very useful for all scientists who have attended this course, because scientists don't have much information about the protection of intellectual property. In most of the cases, they publish their work and they do not know that their research or their invention is so important and it can be commercialized or it can be useful for other people also. So it's very important for all participants here. So we can have some question. I think for
Sure.
most of the question you have already answered, but if participant can wanted to ask some question, they can send their question in writing, because it would be difficult to hear everyone.
How do they send it in writing?
Through chat box.
Okay. So if there's any question, you can read it for me and I'll see if I can.
Answered most of the question I can see here.
Can you see the questions? I cannot. Let me see.
The last one is so we have received very nice comments. Do Pakistan have their own IT system? Yes. Doctor?
Yes, yes. Very good question. Okay, yes. Pakistan has a, just like I said, every country has its own IP system. And sometimes there are laws that require you to file in Pakistan before you go and file elsewhere. But I am not a big fan, not only just for the Pakistani system, but for any other system, okay? You know, as I said to you very simply, yes, they have a system, but if you have a Pakistani patent, okay, what do you do with it? The fact is, you want your research or your idea to be judged on international standards, okay? So yes, you can file in Pakistan, but I think if you think you have a valid invention, then you need to go outside of Pakistan to get your invention, approved or registered.
Dr. Ilyas, he has a question that he has two novel microbial strains having MT number from NCBI. These novel bacteria are used to make a novel biological antiviral drug. So they want to file a patent.
Sure. So I think, if you are in Pakistan, you are very lucky. You have the Higher Education Commission. I tell you what, I'm so happy to report this to you and be part of it. You can submit your invention. There's an online form. You can go and submit your invention to them. They discuss it, and I'm part of discussion there. And then we first do go and do the dirty work, which is finding out, whether it's a invention or not. And if it is invention, okay, they pick up the tab for all the cost that goes in there. So if you're in Pakistan, you're in very good shape, okay? You can send it out to HEC for evaluation.
Dr. Ghulam has asked, cost of patenting in US is very high. So what should we do?
Very good point, my dear. So when Parvez Musharraf came to my house, and I told him that I'm going to provide the service for no charge. So he said, how much is the charge? I said, the average cost is about $50,000 to $100,000 to get a patent. And I will charge you $0, okay? So if you're in Pakistan today, you get when I say my service is no charge. And HEC picks up the tab, okay? So you don't have to worry about the cost, at least in Pakistan, okay? I think they have done an excellent job, okay, in HEC to promote this idea for you to go out of Pakistan and get your patents registered. Otherwise, it's about $100,000.
Yes, Professor Dr. Huma has asked, sometimes it is, he says that it is very essential to publish data. So he cannot file patent, they have to publish because they want to have their PhD. So in that case, what they should do?
Very good point. So keep one thing in mind. You can publish, you have exactly 12 months when the paper comes out to public, not when you submit, to file the patent. Now, in my opinion, 12 months should be more than enough for HEC and for my group to tell you whether it's a good patent or not. Okay. So go ahead. If you must publish, publish it. Don't hold anything. But at the same time, okay, when you are submitting the paper, okay, also submit the paper to HEC, not HEC, I mean, yeah, HEC, and investigate. But in your case, you should be able to get the patent process started even long before your paper is ready to go to press or ready to go to submission. I mean, you should start much earlier, even before the thesis is completed or paper is completed, if you think you have an inventive step or inventive product.
Mr. Nadeem has asked, can we file patent in many countries?
Good point. First of all, yeah, that's where the treaties come in handy. So the PCT, which Pakistan is not part of it, that's another reason why you should not file in Pakistan, okay? Because the Pakistani patent does not give you protection anywhere. So you have 12 months after filing a patent to file in other countries. The reason I recommend it is that that cost can spiral very high, and you have 12 months after you have received your patent to decide it. So yes, you can file in many countries, but you know, I think you have to be careful, okay, in why you are filing into other countries, okay. I think if you know the commercial value of your product, where it's going, I'll tell you example, okay. I know a lot of US companies, they don't even file patents in many of the OICs. They don't want to sell there, okay, because they don't think there's a much value there, okay. So it's a business decision that I would leave it to your business planning rather than, it's not a scientific decision, it's a business decision to make.
I think we do not have more questions. Thank you so much, Doctor. So again, on behalf of Comstech and ICCBS, I would like to thank you again. And for participants, those who wanted to have their certificate, I would like to inform you that they will receive their certificate after 2 weeks. Thank you.
And the only thing I will add is that if anybody has any question, you have my email, write to me. I'm very good at responding back, okay. I like to encourage you, any questions you may have, okay. I always say as a teacher, there's no stupid question, only stupid answers, okay. So ask anything you're on your mind, okay.
And then the other thing is this lecture is being recorded, and this would be available on Comstech website, and the doctor presentation will also be available on the website.
Fantastic.
See in detail anything which you want after this.
Yes. Yeah, somebody is asking that, okay, tell them yes. Make it available. Or, you know, if you just want the presentation and not the whole recording, okay, I can also give you, I'm going to put it on YouTube, just the slides, okay, so you can simply link it in. You don't have to wait. You don't have to listen for 2 hours, okay, you can just simply scan through quickly.
Okay, thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you again.
Have a good day, everybody. Stay safe. Stay safe. Okay.